Okay, friends, so I am doing this video a little later today. So this is day 7 of our 2024 journey to Liberia. We've been at this for, let me check the day counter. So we decided to adopt from Liberia 649 days ago. We were matched with our 2 little girls who are now 6 and 7, 552 days ago. And we completed all of our fundraising like May of 2022. I'm sorry, May of 2023. So we've been ready for a while. Number of days that our kids, our Liberian kids, have been in an orphanage, 990. Number of days since we have been fully funded to go get them. Hang on, I have that one too. Like 300 days. So, or 320 days. So that's really cool. And so they've basically been sitting in an orphanage for an extra year, just waiting on paperwork. They have biological family members that are supportive of their adoption. I think they have 2, maybe 3. So some of the other families that we've talked a lot, we have 7 families in limbo. We have a few families that just got pushed through that are, one of them in particular that she is advocating, Amanda Kramer, she just adopted her little boy and brought him home, but she, her and her husband both have military careers, and they see a lot of foreign policy violations and legal issues that are delaying our adoption, specifically ours and 6 other families. And so they're going to bat for us. If you want to, I can send you this letter template of basically the letter that has all the information in it. You can adjust it or shorten it or lengthen it for your own opinion. I've sent a couple of it to our friends and family so far, and I can send it to you. If you comment below, I can send you a copy of this. But I just want to read it. Today, I've probably spent more money in the last 72 hours. So we're going to go see our kids second week of February to the first week of March. So we'll be gone for 3 weeks. We've secured our plane tickets, our travel accommodations, where we're going to stay when we're there, how we're going to get back and forth to the airport. And we have permission from our agency to visit our kids as much as we possibly can while we're there. We can't take them out of the orphanage. We're going to hope that they get their paperwork signed miraculously while we are there. We don't really think that's going to happen, but we're hopeful. It's about a $20,000 visit to see them. Exciting. Okay. Dear to whom it may concern. This is if you're like a friend or family member. So like a good friend that's asked if she could write a letter, but doesn't know where to start. So you as American citizens and taxpayers need to reach out to your individual Congress, because our families are all spread out all over the U.S. So it's not like they're seeing a big push from one or the other, but we need to make this a big push. And that's why we need you. So all the people that have helped us fundraise like 90 grand over the last year, or year and a half since we decided to say yes to this process, and all those people that are still cheering us for us. And thank you. There were two people that gave to our crowdfunding site over the last 24 hours. Thank you, Tina and Lana, for your support. They gave some donations to our Adopt Together crowdfunding site, which I will link in the description, to help with our travel expenses. And like, it doesn't, I mean, these donations really add up. You'll see kind of how it's climbed. We had a goal of $35,000 and we hit it. Thank you, Adopt Together, for that avenue and for the extra help. And then I increased it when I figured we were going to have to do these 2 trips. So it's an extra 20 grand. So we need $54,000 total. And we're working on it. We got some grants that are coming through, but if you want to be a part of our story, even if you just give $1, you'll get emails from me. So, okay. So I'm going to read this letter that Amanda Kramer drafted, and this really gives all the details, and it really explains where our family is, and what you can do to help is just share the story with Congress that you're connected to, and with the Office of Children's Issues here in the U.S. They are interested, and they're saying that they're going to give us a platform to talk. So the more they see all of this in the media now, optics really matter. The more people that are asking, the more attention this is going to get. So we need you. These are basically, I'm asking you to send 5 emails of the same thing. So, all right, here's the letter. To whom it may concern, I am reaching out to you to request urgent assistance on behalf of what we've learned, that an entity in the U.S. government is abusing U.S. adoptive families. The U.S. Embassy in Liberia has increasingly mistreated families in country since personnel turnover in fall of 2022. It has become apparent that the specific Department of State employee posted at the embassy in Liberia has made a name for himself as being rude, unprofessional, and a constant obstruction to adoptive families. When one family identified this person by name through a congressional inquiry, they were threatened by the U.S. Embassy. This alone reveals lack of accountability and oversight at this government office, as its go-to response to an attempt at all accountability was to attempt to intimidate a U.S. adoptive family. This threat caused concern for retaliation. However, the embassy approved their I-600 immigration application in 18 hours, which is unheard of over the last year, where people have waited up to 6 months and had to place their children back in the orphanage or leave their children behind in country due to the length of the delay. And these are unexpected delays. It used to be a 3-week thing, 3 to 4 weeks total in country, which is doable for American families that have had time to fundraise. 4 to 6 months is not as doable. You know, we have to all go to work and eat and all of that. So they approved the family that sent the letter. Just to sum it up, the Kramers sent a letter. They just inquiring because they had heard this and they were nervous and they wanted to make sure to make their desire to adopt clear to their congressional representatives before they crossed the ocean. And by doing that, the U.S. Embassy made a threat to them regarding their adoption. So then when they got there, instead of making them wait like they've made every other family wait between 3 weeks and 6 months, they approved them in 18 hours. So just like wrap your mind around that. They expressed concern. They got threatened that they shouldn't be naming people. They shouldn't be saying these things. They shouldn't approach their Congress regarding their adoption, basically. And then when they got in country, they got approved in 18 hours. So, like, there's something going on there, right? They did not have to put their child back in the orphanage or even consider their child's bonding with them being delayed based on this. And it's a big deal. Like, once we get custody of the kids, when we get there, they live with you and they are part of your family and part of your life, whatever that looks like in Liberia, and then they come home with you. So to return to orphan care after having the bonding experience is psychologically hard. So there's been other families that have said, well, you should leave them in the orphanage and miss that bonding time as opposed to like causing conflict and chaos later. But that's just, I mean, why would you live in country when they can be in your care and not take advantage of that? So there you go. As great as the outcome is for this particular family that got the 18-hour approval, it raises a huge red flag. This rapid push brought to light the fact that they knew they had mistreated yet another family and wanted them out of their hair. They didn't want to get sued for mistreating or abusing adoptive families because this family had the knowledge and the resources to do that, is what it led to, but that's not part of the letter. Since this family left Liberia, other families continue to experience mistreatment. I have come to learn through adoptive families of the embassy's recent past and continued mistreatment of the adopting American families and the embassy's continued violation of the Foreign Affairs Manual, parentheses 9 FAM 502.3, number 1, parentheses E. Embassy personnel, one in particular, have been associated with tremendous and arbitrary delay in processing I-600 orphan immigration applications. A growing community of adoptive families have shared their experiences revealing the disturbing and unfortunate commonality of bureaucratic abuse towards adoptive families. And this form of abuse also comes in delays. Like when you say to the U.S. Embassy, yes, I have a job to get back to. Yes, I'm employed. Yes, this is my, this is what they ask you those questions. Do you have a job? Where are you returning to? Are you married? Are you single? They ask you all these questions. When you say, yes, I have a job to get back to. I need to get back there as soon as possible. And they delay they're literally like threatening, they're threatening you, like, oh, we're not going to let you go. We're not going to tell you when we're going to let you go. They don't even give a time frame. They say weeks to months. They used to just say weeks, days to weeks, actually, on their website. But that violation of the Foreign Policy Manual that basically says that all adoptions are to be treated with sensitivity and expeditious processing. It's literally in the manual. A growing community of adoptive families have shared their experiences, revealing the disturbing and unfortunate commonality of bureaucratic abuse towards adoptive families. And I just explained that to you better. There is a suspicion that the U.S. Embassy in Liberia is retaliating against the adoptive community for recent attention that has been placed on the U.S. Embassy by several families and adoption agencies via congressional representatives and senators. And that includes our adoption agency, too. They put a lot of pressure. They've had meetings with the State Department, meetings with the Ministry of Gender in Liberia, meetings with the U.S. Embassy. Anybody that'll give our agency an ear, and they work together with the other agencies. There's at least 2 more agencies that kind of work together. They're all on the same common goal. They work together, and they've pushed and pushed and pushed, especially ours. Like, give us some answers. Tell us what you need. Tell us how we can speed this up. Tell us what's missing. Tell us what your concerns are. And they're not getting good answers. They're just getting more delays. They also appear to have either no oversight or dysfunctional oversight given the responses provided in the past families. It is deeply concerning that a government entity is able to function without any trace of accountability or oversight, nor any indication or sense of duty to the U.S. citizens that they exist to represent. So when I get on a plane and I go over to Liberia and the U.S. Embassy mistreats me, like, it's a violation of my rights as an American citizen. Like, they should be a safe harbor for us. They should be there to support us. Our tax dollars pay their salaries. Like, these are appointed positions, but they work for us. American taxpayer. So keep that in mind, that your tax dollars are funding this fund. Please bear with me on the following information, as you must dive a little deeper to see the reality. Although what I'm about to say next is horrifying. It has been communicated that there is concern regarding orphanages soliciting mothers for their children, and U.S. adoption agencies are being scrutinized, and some even investigated for trying to solicit mothers to give their children to the orphanage for adoption. I want to just stop right there. So our orphanage has 38 kids in it right now. They usually average around 25, but they've had kind of a bottleneck of throughput. Just so you know, like, there's waiting lists for these orphanages. Like, there's people that are like, these kids, they kind of got to be in dire straits, and the birth parents have to fill out a lot of paperwork. They have to go through an interview process. That paperwork is sent to the U.S., reviewed by independent agencies that don't even live, like, there's a lot of processing there. So, like, to say that any agency in Liberia for adoption would be looking for birth mothers because implying they don't have enough business is just, like, it's just not true. Like, there's not time for that. I mean, they've got a sign that has a phone number and an email address. They have, business cards if they're in public. Of course, they have, they have probably, I don't know what they have on their car, but I mean, it's pretty obvious what they do. They have workers that talk about their careers. They have birth families that have stories of placing their children for adoption to save their life. But, like, recruitment isn't needed for this business. They're overrun. So it's hurtful. It's hard for me to read the next part. It has been communicated that there is concern regarding orphanages soliciting mothers for their children, and U.S. adoption agencies are being scrutinized and some even investigated. Collectively, we are aware of the particulars that served as the catalyst of this embassy's concern regarding potential soliciting of birth mothers by Liberian orphanages, and these alleged solicitations are at best a misunderstanding based on the manner in which the questions were answered in the Ministry of Gender Investigators and Birth Families. Because they interview them that's part of their investigation before we can bring our kids home. So I'm sure our child's birth family, our 2 daughters in Liberia, their birth family's been interviewed. So, at worst, an attempt by embassy personnel to further frustrate adoptions in country. While we understand viewing a non-Hague Convention country through a human trafficking lens is necessary. If you don't know what Hague is, just send me an email, I'll tell you. It's basically, Hague does not apply to Liberia, it's non-Hague country. Hague was a organization, intercountry international adoption that was designed to prevent trafficking and corruption and actually just make things harder. But that's that. So basically they're saying they need to scrutinize non-Hague countries more, which isn't true, but whatever they want to do. There is a lack of balance with consideration of the humanity of the situation. We urge the embassy to please not punish innocent children and loving families by not allowing already investigated and cleared children to start life with their families. These children have been through so much, and in the short time on earth than most American U.S. Embassy employees or any American will experience in a lifetime. I mean, our kids have been, and I told you, our kids have been in that orphanage for 990 days. So they're coming up on 1,000 days in an orphanage. And since July of 2022, we have had time, space, resources, money, places at our table, places in our house, places for them to sleep. Like, we've had a life waiting for them since July of 2022. So really, they only had to wait in the orphanage for 13 months for their permanent family. But like, what is it right now? January 2024? So for an extra 13 months, you're telling me that it was necessary for them to wait? Because we're investigating to make sure that they're actually orphans and make sure nobody made their birth mother show up. All right, last paragraph. The embassy is well aware that the Liberian court legally grants full parental rights before adoptive parents are even allowed to submit their I-600 application and eventual visa application to immigrate adopted children. Thus, the lawful and rightful parents of these children are forced to send them back to an orphanage based on the callous and superfluous demands of the U.S. Embassy. Before this adoption management change in the fall of 2022, the vast majority of I-600 processing took 1 to 3 weeks. If the embassy was going to require DNA tests for every birth mother and child and not trust issued birth certificates with the mother or parents listed, then this needs to occur during the Ministry of Gender investigation, not after a family has gone to Liberian courts and are now applying for a visa to immigrate their child, only to be told no because we need a DNA test. This latest procedural practice of requiring DNA tests is incredibly abusive of both adoptive families and children who cannot go with their legal parents to the U.S. This absurd standard is not evenly or predictably applied, revealing the true arbitrary nature of these I-600 investigations and the unchecked power of an embassy employee to subvert and obstruct an adoption at his or her whim. U.S. Embassy office procedures are broken, as are their attitudes, common sense, and sense of goodness to humanity. And they don't get in trouble when they break the rules. I don't care if they want to be nice, they want to be mean. I don't care what they want to do, but do your job. And if you're going to break the rules, you shouldn't get a paycheck. I mean, that's where it is where I work. How about you guys? When you work and you break the rules, do you get a paycheck? I hope not. If you do, maybe we should write them a letter. With all of this said, the embassy is absolutely abusive in its arbitrary and at times nonsensical application of scrutiny to cases, and utter lack of communication with families. We understand that each adoption case has its own circumstances. However, the embassy can find information to share with adoptive families as they anxiously give up so much to offer love, opportunity, and family to children in need. They can acknowledge the humanity of people helping while balancing the need to ensure that all children are in fact available to adopt and safe. They can advocate for and implement common sense process change that will allow them to abide by Foreign Affairs Manual requirement of their office that considers adoption cases, and this is a quote out of the Foreign Policy Manual, adoption cases to be the highest priority, and their goal is to provide helpful, courteous, and expeditious assistance to U.S. citizens and maintain sound visa issuance policies, and that all adoption cases must be treated with sensitivity and processed promptly to avoid hardship for the child or adopting parents. We know they are capable of abiding by this regulation. I-600 processing delays were not formally a problem before fall of 2022. Right in the moment that we were waiting for our Ministry of Gender paperwork to be signed, and every other family was going through quickly. I mean, we've heard stories of kids like having their paperwork start to finish, like match with a family home in 7 months. The embassy provides no feedback if and when a case is delayed. They deflect inquiries from adoptive families. Like, they don't even say, like, okay, this is going to take 2 weeks. Okay, this is going to take 3 months. Okay, this is going to take 6 months. They don't even say that when you meet with them. They say, we'll call you. One family came home. They literally got on a plane and came all the way home after 5 weeks, only to literally get an email 2 days later that they could bring their kids home. Like, communicate with these families that you're close. They literally flew all the way home and then had to turn around and fly all the way back. And just one flight for 2 people, round trip, is like $6,000, $5,000 or $6,000. Easy. Get your sky miles, because you're going to need them. It's incredibly costly to navigate this process, and the senseless delays are tremendous. Families incurring, I just told you, $22,000 in additional adoption cost, all based on embassy I-600 processing delay. Sorry, this video is getting longer because this letter's longer than I thought. The embassy continues to deflect providing data regarding historical timelines. In recent correspondence, an adoptive family brought to our attention there's been a trend of tremendous delay. The response to the U.S. Embassy in Liberia provided potential causes, but they didn't address whether there actually has been. They said visa fraud, but they don't have any reasons for visa fraud. We asked them for metrics, like how many adoptions have gone through, and we know lots more have gone through in each calendar year. Adoptive families deserve far better and are left with no recourse other than to bring their struggles with the U.S. Embassy to the court of public opinion through news and media outlets. This mismanagement cannot continue as adoptive families and children continue to suffer in silence. And like, that's one of the, and this video has gotten to be really long, and I'm sad now that it's so long. But nobody's going to speak for my kids unless I do. That's just the bottom line. I mean, some of my friends will because they love me, but nobody's going to speak for them unless we do. No one's going to speak for me unless you do. So unless you get out your computer right now, because you'll forget, because these are my kids, not yours. These are kids you may never see if you don't live close to me. These are, I mean, if you're my neighbors and you're my friends that see me at church or see me at work that are like, good grief, like they just want to lift it, they can't. They may write letters, but they may not. Like if they don't do it right then, they may not do it. And I have utilized every voice that I have. I've utilized every outlet that I have. I'm maintaining positivity. I'm praying for a miracle. I mean, all my other kids were pretty miraculous, so why not these? But like, we're just going to fly over there and literally spend $20,000 just to meet them and hug them and tell them we're trying. Even if, no matter how long it takes. And they need to hear that and see that from me in person because they're kids. They don't understand. I need to see it and hear it from you in person because I'm a mom and I just don't understand. Thank you.